Al Jazeera Podcasts.
Just a warning before we start. Today's episode includes personal accounts of domestic violence and abuse. Leaving a marriage can be a difficult decision for a number of reasons, of course. Divorce can be discouraged by the family, there could be financial concerns, or reasons on a much more personal level. And in some cases, fear of an abusive partner. But in the Philippines, there is no question about the end of a marriage. Divorce is largely not recognized by the state for the majority of the population. But there's been a renewed fight to change that in the courts. I want to know what kind of impact this is having on women in the Philippines. I'm Samantha Johnson, and this is Now You Know, a safe space where we go all in on stories about women, so by the end of each episode, you can say, now I know. Cindy Diaz is a single mom of 3. She says after years of abuse, she decided to leave her husband. She wants to get a divorce and is now one of many women who've been fighting the courts to change the law. So Cindy is here with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Cindy, I'd love to know more about you and your life in the Philippines and you growing up with your family.
So, my mom and dad, I have 2 other siblings. We're just a normal family here. Um, my my parents have a small business. So that's where we get our basic needs. We're just I would say mid class. I was born Catholic. Me and my children were already baptized as a born again Christian here.
And what did marriage mean to you?
It's very important to me when you're advocating for divorce, they will always think that, oh, the only reason why you want a divorce is you want to remarry. But I think that's not the case because most of us we go through a lot fighting for the family to work.
So it's not an easy decision to go through.
It's not something that we just wake up and we decided that we just want divorce.
Tell me about your story and who was the person that you married and how it all
Yes,
began.
I met him when I was in college. We fell in love. I got pregnant. I
Mm-hmm.
would say that if we were given more time, we will not marry back then right away. But we are in love though.
Were you allowed to have children outside of wedlock?
You can decide not to marry, but the
Ah,
pressure, the social pressure, um, you are expected to be married when you're
mhm.
carrying a child, basically. So it's more influenced by the Catholic Church, I believe.
And what happened? How did that marriage progress?
We started living with my side of the family. My mom brought me back to school to study
Mm.
again.
How old were you? How old were you?
I was 20 back then, 21.
So you were living with your side of the family, your mother, a young mother, still finding out about yourself, but you're also married. When did things change for you?
At that time, I'm studying, and then my mom gave me a capital to start with a small store.
Oh,
So
nice.
I'm taking care of the baby. while I'm managing. I can bring my baby inside the store so I can both manage the store and take care of my baby. And then there's another opportunity that came in, so I can open up another stall right beside my small store,
Mm-hmm.
like a food business. I am noticing that he's not participating. He said that because here maybe in the Philippines there's still I'm a man. I'm not supposed to work inside the kitchen, things like that. One time, lunchtime, I'm very busy in the store for the food because there's a lot of people buying during that time. And then I need to always bring him his food to the other store while he's with my daughter and looking after the other store. So I got late. It was like almost after lunch because of the traffic on the other store. So he got mad. He got mad because he's starving. And then he got mad, and then I already left the food there. And then I go back to the store. I see the door is open. My baby inside the crib, he's not there. He left the baby inside. So that that's the first time that I think I kind of freak out a bit. That's the first time I see his temper. He did vanish after that, after several like tiny quarrels that we have. One time, because I'm very exhausted sometimes after working in the store. So, in average, I'm getting like only 3 hours sleep a day. So when one time before he vanished the first time in our relationship, he I just woke up and I have uh my shorts is already on my knees, like on the level of my knee. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I felt it. I think he did something while I'm asleep. Yeah. And then I got mad with him. I told him, "What do you think of me? I'm your wife.
Mm.
Why are you supposed to do that?" Like I I slapped him. We fought,
Mm.
and then he fled away. He fled. That's when he first disappeared. But then I'm still thinking, like, I know that it's not right. Sometimes it's very hard. You're married and we already have a kid, and he did that to me. I know it's not right. I don't need to be with him anymore. But the thing is, I'm married to him. There's no way if you're married in the Philippines, there's no way you're getting out of that marriage until you die. That's the thinking, right? So you need
Yeah.
to accept everything that will happen within that marriage. That's what my thinking was before. What happened is we get back again after that, and then
Mm.
but this time I asked my family if we can give him a different business. I'm always like that. That's a problem with us because when you're in a society that doesn't really equip you to be a strong woman that you should be, even though you can see in front of it's already in front of you, the violation, the abuse is already there. They I don't think the government gives us a um you know the weapon, the for us to be equipped to protect ourselves. as a woman. Because here, if you go to the police and then you said that your husband did this to you, they will just think, oh, it's a wife and the husband problem.
I just want to go back to something that you said. After he assaulted you, after he sexually assaulted you, you got back together
Yes,
and you, being the loving person that you are, you still decided to support him and help him effectively.
I can see that he feel that, you know, whenever we go home to his family, they will see that unlike before, he's always borrowing money from them. Um, but now he take care of some of the expenses during the family um celebration.
Mm.
One day he just didn't open the store, so it's like we're team, right? So I'm a bit upset then, but we're not like shouting, we're just talking to each
Hmm.
other. And then I lie down in the bed, and then when I look back, we're already on the second floor of the house. When I look back, he carried the baby with him, go downstairs. I followed them. And then when they're already downstairs, I'm in the mid of the stair. He he just lifted my daughter from holding the, like how the doctors will hold the baby when it's newborn, like that, in front of me. And then my baby, she still hold on the shoulder. And then, so it was very like, what will I do? I did not expect him to do that. I just rushed to him and then grabbed my baby.
Hmm.
Then I called the police at that time. When we get to the police, what he said to the police is that he's threatening me using the baby. I will not really do it. I will not let go of the baby like I'm trying to threaten her that I will do that. That time, I know that within 24 hours of domestic abuse, like the actual action was done, they should have detained him overnight, but they did not. So what happened is that they let him go away. The police challenged me, if you really want to, um, you're really serious with pushing forward with this, just go to the court and file a case. So after that day, I went to the court. I filed the case, but not really. I don't really know the technicalities of filing a case. This happened the first time to us, to the family. So after that, they said that okay, after this, there's a restraining order. He cannot be near you within 15 meters and the kids. So okay, and then even though he did go to our house, in spite of that,
He broke the
yeah.
restraining order.
And then he is kneeling down and asking for forgiveness. And then he told me that my addiction went back. He's back into drugs, he said.
Do do your children remember things like this?
The children didn't know really what happened then. So they're growing up, they're longing for the father figure. What
Yeah.
happened is the children, they are the one asking for us to try again. So I cannot do that to them. I cannot say no to them, given that they're already affected with what happened to us. So I'm thinking that maybe this time he will do it right. So I give him the last chance. We have the third baby. She's already 10 years old now.
When did you finally split? When
When there's no money anymore, zero.
he just left? Once the money had gone, it was like, you know what, I'm out. That's it.
Yes. The last time he disappeared, 2015.
2015, so 10 years.
Yes.
How are you being supported? Is there a community?
What I found for myself is the group that I'm with right now. It's a divorce Filipinas coalition, we call it. So I I I found to have like the same ground where they're coming from. We're all most of us were abused.
Do you have any hope that at some point divorce will be made legal in the Philippines?
Yes, we're always lobbying in the Senate with the group. We're always following up who we're trying to find who will sponsor our bill. We will not stop. We will not stop. This is not for us anymore. This is for the next generation.
Cindy, you are a strong woman, and your daughters must have been, or they are proud of you for continuing this fight.
Thank you very much.
So here we have Cindy, who's feared for her life and can't get a divorce. I'm curious to know where things sit legally in the Philippines for people like her. Clara Padilla is a lawyer specializing in this field, and I'm pleased to say that she joins us now on Now You Know. So Clara, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Clara, only 2 countries in the world forbid divorce. That's the Philippines and Vatican City. Why is that?
Well, unfortunately, the Philippines is way behind in terms of divorce law, and we think that it's because of the long influence of the Catholic Church, but also the lack of political will of legislators in terms of not passing a divorce law.
You just made a very interesting point about the Catholic Church having an influence on this law. I mean, the Philippine Constitution actually says that church and state should be separate. So how are they still intertwined?
Mhm. Right. Under our constitution, we have separation of church and state. And there's also what you call non establishment of religion. However, you would see that legislators, government officials um, are afraid of challenging conservative religious beliefs. And that's probably because they're thinking of the next elections. And so that's why, for the longest time, the divorce law has not been passed. Although in this present Congress, the House of Representatives passed on third reading a divorce bill. However, the Senate, for this particular Congress, 19th Congress, they have not passed the divorce bill. And so that's why um, abused women, for example, are in limbo. And I have clients who, uh, even in court, they would cry incessantly. And even the judge would be in tears whenever I present these abused women. And so you see that it's very difficult for them uh, when they end up trying to relive the trauma.
The Absolute Divorce Act was approved in the House of Representatives last year in May 2024. And then it sat with the Senate, many of whom they hold conservative leaning views when it comes to things like divorce. And now with the elections, it could be another 3 years before this bill is looked at again. So where do things stand legally?
Okay. Well, we're hoping that come July, the 20th Congress, we are expecting legislators to file the divorce bill. And we expect basically the same provisions. I actually am one of those who have appeared as an expert with Congress. So one ground is the separation of 5 years would be enough to file for divorce. Second is irreconcilable differences. Another is um, um, additional grounds. The grounds for legal separation could be used for divorce, like physical abuse, emotional abuse, um, among others. And then you also have recognition of foreign divorce. And then there's also the recognition of a church annulment, which would be a ground for divorce as well. And then there's provision for alimony, because as of now, the law only provides for support for the children and not for for example, the wife in the nullified marriage. So here, there's a provision for that, and that would solve a lot of problems where. In many patriarchal relationships or sexist relationships, you would have the husband who is richer, who has the who had control of the funds of the company that they have or that they built together, for example, and even the properties. And so with divorce, you can have a clear and fast dissolution of the marriage, separation of the properties, right? And even alimony, for example.
And what will it take for it to get passed?
More people coming out with their personal stories, talking about their personal experiences, more support from people, whether these are academe, whether these are women's groups or youth groups, for example, or even political parties, and support even from uh, those who sway opinions, for example, right? And so, for example, the support of media is very helpful for us, and that's why we want more discussions such as these, because eventually we need people to know that this is urgent, that this is a national issue.
So, Clara, as it stands, people can't get a divorce, but they can apply for legal separation or an annulment on the grounds of psychological incapacity, fraud, or lack of parental consent to the marriage. And that's just some of the examples. But the burden of proof is incredibly high, and seeking an annulment, it's a lengthy process, and it's going to be a prohibitively costly process for many women. What can be done for these women?
Okay. Well, first I need to clarify that the legal separation uh, is just a separation from bed and board, and they would still be married, except that they are allowed to live separately, but they cannot remarry. Uh, as regards dissolution of marriages, there are two grounds. One is annulment, and that includes fraud, among others. The second one that can dissolve the marriage is the what you call nullity of marriage based on Article 36, for example, which is psychological incapacity, which is a ground used by the Catholic Church as well. So other types of amendments that can be done would be one, recognition of the foreign divorce, and then another would be recognition of the church annulment in civil law. And both grounds are actually in the divorce bill. We're hopeful that the divorce bill will be passed into law, the divorce bill provides for speedy grounds, uh, speedier court procedures. So this would be less taxing in terms of time and effort uh, for the petitioner.
How does not allowing for divorce impact women more than men?
The statistics itself would show that 1 out of 5 in a married relationship have suffered abuses. If the divorce bill is passed into law, then there would be financial freedom as well, because the law itself on divorce would provide for alimony. With a divorce law providing for alimony, a woman who has been toiling doing household work, for example, and who was, you might say, prohibited from um, engaging in her profession, here, there would be a clear provision for alimony, and that would be very useful for someone who has devoted her life for the family and for the household. Very helpful for the woman to have a new life where she can be financially stable, and that would be very useful in terms of being empowered.
Clara, I can't thank you enough for shedding some light on the legal side of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This was an emotional and complex conversation, but one that was needed. So a huge thanks to Cindy Diaz and Clara Padilla for joining us on the show. And a little favor for me, please. Share your thoughts. Be a part of the conversation. And if you have stories you'd like us to explore on Now You Know, just let us know in the comments. Thank you, and see you again next week.